time for a look at turn 7 of our Bolt Action Grand Campaign. 3 battles happening this time, the first of which is happening in Romania between the Polish and the invading Soviets. I started with a large cavalry squad this time, a bit of experimental list to see how it would work versus his rather infantry-heavy list. Things started off quite evenly as both sides tried to rush into the middle to get some ground. I quickly realised that bringing such a large cavalry squad just paints a big target on their back, but I was still able to get into a position where I could charge one of his units in the front here. But things weren't turning out so well on the other side of the board as I lost my armoured car to an infantry attack, and my cavalry quickly followed after being pinned by multiple units. At this point I was left with my lieutenant and my artillery piece against an entire horde of Soviets. So here I was just really hoping to whittle down his forces and try and get a draw out of this. Despite my lieutenant surviving multiple volleys of shots at him, the howitzer was completely knocked out, meaning all I was left with was the lieutenant, and I did quickly try to recrew the howitzer in an attempt to get some kills, but the tank really made sure that he wouldn't make it. And with that, it was a decisive Soviet victory over the Poles in Romania. Next is a battle between the Spanish and the Italians over Egypt. This was a manhunt scenario where the Spanish had to defeat the Italian lieutenant in melee combat. The Italians had set up a good defensive position to halt the Spanish advance, but the onslaught proved to be pretty powerful as they were able to close the gap pretty quickly. As the final turn approached, the Italian lieutenant was safe from any melee attacks, so the Spanish player decided to go for a draw, shooting the lieutenant, killing him with his tank. The final battle of the turn was between the Polish and the Soviets in Belarus as the Polish launched Operation Listopad. The Soviets had to defend this truck in the middle of the board in this hold until relieved scenario. My opponent had a very lucky start by killing off an entire cavalry squad with an airstrike, but I got one back by taking out his tank fairly early on. He was able to bombard me with mortar shells as I waited for my artillery to come on, and his reinforcements really started to push up. The combined vehicle assault was proving somewhat effective as I tried to move my cavalry up out of line of sight, and my artillery pieces finally made it out of reserve on turn 3, with the howitzer getting an immediate lucky hit on one of his units. Cavalry had a tough time clearing out this large squad of infantry right next to the objective, taking a casualty in the process. Sadly, a flamethrower was able to sneak in and take out both of my vehicles, leaving my assault in tatters. With a desperate charge from my lieutenant to try and eke out a draw, he was sadly killed in the process, but I was able to get my cavalry in to touch it right at the last minute, finalising the game as a draw. Though the burning wrecks on the other side of the field and the immense amount of casualties on my side definitely didn't feel like a draw. There were also a few naval battles, the Spanish taking out the French in the Bay of Biscay, the Canadians wiping out the British in the English Channel, the Italians failing an assault on the Spanish in the Aegean Sea, and the Indians taking out an American incursion. The map for turn 8 continues to see the Italians losing ground to the German incursion, while the Finns lose Helsinki to the Soviet. Turn 7 also saw the first full capitulation as Britain falls to the Canadians, becoming a government in exile. Feel free to pause the video to read any of the newspaper stories, and we'll see you in the next one.